Are you looking for a resource to help introduce children to key aspects of financial literacy? Look no further. Let me introduce you to the book, Malik's First Job Financial Principles for Teens, written by author Kerwin Phillip. This book is about a young man who goes to his first job interview, later sits down with his father to learn how to manage his money. This book not only speaks on financial literacy, but it also provides tips on key interviewing skills, the importance of community, and the power of family. To purchase your autographed copy, please visit maliksfirstjob.com. You will not be disappointed.
If you're an entrepreneur, you getting your hustle on, right? You're selling products. You got, you're selling your goods or your service,
Okay.
right? And you exchange the goods and service for income. But if you're running a business, it doesn't stop there, because you also have to think about what does it entail for you to generate your service, produce your service or your product, right? Cost of goods sold. So once you get that money minus all your expenses, then you have to look at what your actual profit was. A lot of people don't think about it like that. They just go out there, maybe do hair or cook some turkey legs or something like that. I like to say the rotel egg rolls, right? Something like that. Or they paint houses or cut trees down, cut grass, and they just know I got $100 at the end of the day. But if you're really thinking about, like, if you're cutting grass, your lawnmower, your gas that you're putting in, the mileage that you got to put stuff on the truck and all of that, how much money did you actually make?
Yeah.
Right. And if you want to also think about getting off your 9 to 5, how many times do you have to repeat that process in order to meet that goal?
Yes.
Yeah. So those are the numbers that we're talking about.
Malik's First Job Podcast, here to answer any questions that y'all ask. Financial literacy and resources. Parents and young people becoming bosses. CEOs, future leaders, entrepreneurs. Conferences and boardrooms getting sponsors secured. If you want generational wealth, Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip with information to help. Malik's First Job Podcast. Malik's Podcast. Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip. Kerwin Phillip. Malik's First Job Podcast. Brooklyn's own Kerwin Phillip. Generational wealth.
Greetings, everyone. How you doing? This is Kerwin Phillip here with another episode of Malik's First Job Podcast, where we discuss leadership, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. Today, I have another great guest, someone who I met this year at InvestFest down in Atlanta. We have Miss Sonja Jones, I want to get the title right, the Business Accounting Specialist at GIP Financials down in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's go ahead and welcome Sonja. How you doing today, sis?
I'm well, Kerwin. Thank you again for the opportunity to connect. It's an honor.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, so like I said, we met at InvestFest. So tell us, how did you come to learn about the event, and what were your key takeaways once attending?
Okay, well, I learned about InvestFest because I follow Earn Your Leisure on Instagram, and I listen to them on YouTube occasionally. So when I was looking on Instagram, I saw that they were advertising for InvestFest and they were looking for vendors. I'll be honest, it wasn't my intention to to apply to be a vendor. It was really by faith, right? And once I got accepted, I was like, okay. I was kind of naive because this was our first experience, like doing a big trade show, like vending event. And when I got that exhibitor manual, that 200-page exhibitor manual, that's why I was like, oh yeah, it's go time. It was definitely a learning experience. One of the biggest things that I learned there is definitely first impressions are everything. When I tell you we invested, as far as our marketing and our backdrops, our banners, making sure we all had yellow t-shirts on that said, ask me about funding, because we had talked about, like, we do workshops, and our biggest workshop was grants and loans, and talk about how bookkeeping is imperative for grants and loans. So we we had asked me about funding, and then we had our logo and the booth number on the back, just as a conversation starter. So we had to be very strategic. I had coaches that I asked feedback on and things like that, just to make sure we put our best foot forward. And we got a lot of interest. And we actually connected with a coach who she coaches 6 and 7 figure earner women. And she was like, you need to provide and advertise your services to coaches like me, because I have mentees and their books are not where they ought to be. I can't get them from 6 to 7 figures because of their books, you know, and we ended up actually establishing a relationship from that. And so, I mean, it's like, that was a huge blessing. So, yeah, and then we had, of course, interviews and podcasts and stuff like that. We just met a lot of cool people. So, yeah, that was our biggest takeaway. Just stepping out and meeting new people and just the exposure of it all.
Yeah. And I tell people that's like the biggest, biggest benefit from attending an event like that is that you meet so many different people. The networking aspect that takes place. Whenever I go, like this is my 3rd year attending, I always spend most of my time in like the vending area, because that's where the real connections are made. Of course, it's great to see the celebrities and the big names, but I always say those are like the bees. No, that's the honey that draws the bees, to the venue. And then it's our job to connect with fellow bees that are out here working in different areas across the country, even across the world. Because where else would I have met you from Tennessee and I'm here in Virginia?
Exactly.
It's folks I met from California and, Florida and things of that sort. They all gathered in this one place, and it was my job to connect with everyone and see, what, if there's some common ground and opportunities for us to work together, right? So again, you are the business accounting specialist for GIP Financials, right? So tell us, what exactly is GIP Financials?
All right. Well, GIP Financials is a remote bookkeeping firm in Memphis, Tennessee. I have to start off. GIP is an acronym for Get in Position.
Okay.
And our mission is to empower entrepreneurs to, one, prioritize their numbers, and secondly, position their businesses for profit. And we do that through bookkeeping and fundamental business finance education. So not only do we help you organize your financials, we also teach you why you need to do it and the data and like the KPIs and the metrics that are necessary to help you, get from the next level. Because accounting, just kind of like medicine, right? Those terminologies can go over your head, and it can be easily Greek to you. And once it starts sounding like want, like Charlie Brown's teacher, you just kind of you block it out. But as entrepreneurs, we can't do that when it comes to money. So what we do, we help take those accounting concepts and we break those elements down to where entrepreneurs can understand it, and we really get into the nitty-gritty of the why of those concepts and why they're important.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that, you educate people on their numbers in order to help them, generate profits.
Yes.
Now, how does understanding the numbers help what's the correlation between the two?
Right. So when you're talking about your bookkeeping as an entrepreneur, right? Most people, and I'll tell you what, I'm gonna start responding to that by telling you why we came to be.
Okay.
All right. So I started GIP Financials. I'm an educator by trade. I've been in education for over 20 years. I started as a music teacher, and then I ended up in administration, being over a director of finance and ops for a local charter school.
Okay.
And being director of finance and ops, we wanted to make sure that we were patrons of the neighborhood, and as well as our scholars, parents, grandparents who were business owners. But we also have an accountability to the state, because we receive state and federal funding, and every penny has to be accounted for. So there were a couple of times where we didn't see eye to eye, meaning that, they wanted to like get in, put me on, right? But you have to fill out that W-9, because when we give you income over $600, you have to report that on your taxes. We can't
Right.
pay you through PayPal, friends and family.
Right.
You know, things like that. Yeah, it happened. So with that, that's when I saw like there was a disconnect
Right.
between we got talented entrepreneurs who offered great products and services, but didn't have the financial acumen. Why? To be honest, because they were just trying to survive. You
Yeah.
know, they were trying to do something to bring in more income so they can help out their household. So you definitely can't knock that. But when it
Right.
comes to opportunities like grants and loans, and if the city or the local government has incentives for small businesses, what they're going to ask for tax returns, profit and loss statements, balance
Yeah.
sheets, and history showing that you actually were a legitimate business. That's where the
Right.
roadblocks start coming in, and that can be discouraging, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to individuals. So
Yeah.
answering the question, if you're an entrepreneur, you getting your hustle on, right? You're selling
Right.
products, you got, you know, you're selling your goods or your service,
Okay.
right? And you exchange the goods and service for income. But if you're running a business, it doesn't stop there, because you also have to think about what does it entail for you to run your generate your service, produce your service or your product,
Right.
right? Cost of goods sold. So once you get that money minus all your expenses, then you have to look at what your actual profit was. A lot of people don't think about it like that. They
Okay.
just go out there, you know, maybe do hair or cook some turkey legs or something like that. I like to say the rotel egg rolls, right? Something like that. Or they paint houses or cut trees down, cut
Yeah.
grass, and they just know I got $100 at the end of the day. But if
Yeah.
you're really thinking about, like, if you're cutting grass, your lawnmower, your gas that you're putting in, the mileage that you got to put stuff on the truck and all of that, how much money did you actually make?
Yeah.
Right. And if you want to also think about getting off your 9 to 5, how many times do you have to repeat that process in order to meet that goal?
Yes.
Yeah. So those are the numbers that we're talking about.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. You often hear people say, to be successful, you have to know your numbers, right? Because again, the numbers, some people say numbers don't lie, and those key metrics are what I guess what you would say are the identifies to see whether you're profitable or not.
Mhm.
Because oftentimes I remember reading the book, the E Myth, is E Myth Revisited, I think it's called. You've heard
Mhm.
of that book before?
I heard of
You
it.
know,
Yeah.
Whereas, as you said, you have people who want to be entrepreneurs. They know how to produce a product and service. Like, okay, I know how to bake cakes, so I want to get into the bakery business, right? I know how to cook, turkey legs, as you said. I want
Mhm.
to open up a restaurant. So, but the recipes and the process of turkey legs or baking cakes does not equate to knowing how to run a business,
That's right.
you know, because there's a lot of operational things that go on behind the scenes that you have to be aware of. And I guess
Mhm.
that's where you all step in to help people understand those
Right.
operational aspects,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So you said that you started off as a music teacher,
Yeah.
right? And then got into administration,
Mhm.
and then I guess like explain those transitions, and then came to open up GIP Financial.
Okay. Got you. So you said we had 45 minutes. So actually, what happened when
Okay.
I guess I always kind of had somewhat of an entrepreneurial spirit. You have to
Okay.
really kind of ask my mom and dad about that. So when I started teaching in 2002 through 2013. And from there, you know, the recession hit,
Right.
right? And my dad at the time was preparing for retirement, and he took a pretty significant hit. So
Okay.
with me at the time, I was like, how can I help my parents, you know, at least recoup some of what they've lost? So at the time, I was really into like real estate investing. So I
Okay.
started like with looking at like some low risk stuff like tax deeds and things like that. And then I
Hmm.
started looking at like residential and commercial real estate. And from there, I did a research on some properties like 10 minutes away from the school where I taught at, because it was like in a low income area.
Okay.
Um, and it was a seller finance. ended up owning like a block of properties, seller financed. And my
Okay.
parents helped me, get it. I ran the numbers, right? And I put that in air quotes for a reason. I'm gonna tell you why in a minute.
Okay.
And from there, we started like a real estate investment / property management company. And what ended up happening was most of our tenants, of course, were low income, but there were some nonprofits who offered transitional and permanent housing assistance. And so we were able to get on their kind of like their list. And we were actually pretty consistent as far as keeping up our, units and stuff like that. And it just kind of grew into, a ministry, to be honest.
Okay.
And so from there, I was like, you know what? I kind of want to teach part-time because I honestly, I saw other folks, other people, get that privilege. So I'm thinking, surely the music teacher that has, done Christmas and Easter programs and generated, entertainment for donations, and if you will, right? But that didn't happen. So I just went on ahead, took a leap of faith, and stepped down.
Okay.
And so from there, my school leader that was at that school, he was asked to start the charter school. And so my intention was to go to the charter school to teach music, but clearly God had other plans. So I started with him just doing like light office work, but he also knew that not only did I have, the rental properties, but I also taught piano lessons. And I had a piano studio at the time as well.
Okay.
So I knew a little bit about business, not a school, but from there, I just started, doing like light office work, preparing for that charter school to open. And then 10 years later, I just never left, and then from there, I started learning all the stuff about, school finance, really nonprofit finance, because charter schools in state Tennessee have to be 501c3. And it just kind of grew from there.
Wow. So what was the motivation, I guess, to take that leap of faith to say, you know what, I'm going to start my own thing,
Yeah, to be quite honest, I did not, I didn't like how the property management companies that were targeted for low income people, I didn't like how they treated the tenants.
Okay.
I wanted to do that. I wanted to protect our tenants.
Okay.
To be quite honest, that's what it was.
Wow. And how long have you been in business with GIP Financials?
Since December of 2019. How ironic is that?
Wow. So about 4 years, coming up 4 years.
I mean, right before the pandemic.
Wow.
So I mean, we hit the ground running, just like, y'all, these PPP loans. When I think we were evangelizing, because it was chaotic. It was, we were like, y'all, stop.
So talk about that. Talk about how the starting the business right before the pandemic. How did that impact you as you're trying to hit the ground running and get things ramped up, and then all of a sudden, bam, everybody's inside.
Oh my goodness. So when I first started GIP Financials, I was just thinking, I'm just going to do bookkeeping, right? Sometimes going to chill in the cut, help a couple of businesses get organized, not put up a whole lot, not make a whole lot of noise, right? And I got coaching, to get the proper help and make sure I would set myself up properly for that. So just make sure, coaching is always appropriate, right? And then once, the pandemic hit, that was March of 2020, because I was still, in school. So trying to have to, work that out. And then also just kind of seeing these opportunities, with the PPP loan, and just, reading up on it. And then I was already outside of GIP, just known for just being a money chick, right? So my friends would call me like, "Hey, have you heard about this PPP?" And say, "What about this? And what about this?" They were like, "I heard somebody can apply on my behalf, and they can get us $20,000, and all we had to do is give them $5,000." I was like, "That don't even sound right." So I just started looking at the SBA stuff, and I was like, "Y'all can do this on your own." So I just started like doing Facebook Lives and YouTubes and stuff, and just really delving into what the PPP was, getting the eligibility requirements and all that, because I'm still a teacher, right?
Yeah.
So we'll make sure it's extremely thorough, and just really saving people's bacon from getting, taking advantage of our predatory applications and stuff like that. And there was 3 rounds of the PPP, so we had to go through and make sure all the eligibility requirements and stuff was still intact. And people were like, "I'm afraid of doing it because it's Fed money and stuff like that." And just trying to, the legitimate businesses who really wanted to do it, I was like, "Y'all, this is the opportunity to get in and get whatever that you need," especially if it was being forgiven. Even with the EIDL loan, that was a 3.75% interest rate, 30-year amortized. That was probably the cheapest loan you're going to get probably in a lifetime. Just explaining the benefits of it and how you can make it work for you. So in that, long story short, when President Biden came into office and he had that 2-week window specifically like for the smaller mom and pop businesses, we went in and got the ground running. I was like, "Y'all, get in here, get in while the water is stirred." And the businesses that we helped was like 7 businesses. They all got it, and they all got forgiven because we did it the right way.
Right.
And so that's really how we just kind of got in there and just, solidifying our brand about being educated and doing things the right way. And I'll tell anybody, I'm not going to jail for nobody. I don't want you to go there, but I'm going to jail for you. Because, you have a couple of people that was like, "Well, Sonja, what if we did it this way? What if I did that?" I was like, what them folks said on the rules. Quit playing. Like, not doing it. So, that's pretty much how it happened. We just kind of went at it from there.
Wow. Wow. And, there's something to say that, because a lot of people folded during the pandemic. They struggled and they just weren't able to see it through. But you all, again, just starting up right before it happened, and still, 4 years later, you're still at it.
Right.
They got to commend you for that.
Thank you. And you know what, Karen, it was really just keeping our ear to the ground and just really listening to people's needs.
Okay.
And especially when it came to taxes and accounting, we just had to educate people like tax preparers aren't bookkeepers and vice versa. Just because they're a CPA doesn't necessarily mean they're the cream of the crop. CPAs have, they have their purpose, right? Because there was just a lot of miseducation. So we just had to go in there and just till the ground, if you will.
Yeah.
And just do a lot of, debunking myths.
Okay. So if you can you explain, I guess, because someone may say, "Well, I thought the tax preparer and the bookkeeper are the same thing. They all deal with numbers." Can you kind of explain the basic difference between the two?
Absolutely. So on my YouTube channel, we talk about the 4 financial roles. We talk about the bookkeeper, and they're not in particular order. The bookkeeper, the tax preparer, the tax planner, and the CPA. So the bookkeeper, what I'd like to talk about is pretty much data entry, right?
Okay.
If you think about your finances as a closet, and you just take your clothes and just throw clothes all in the closet. The bookkeeper is like Marie Kondo, pick up each piece of clothing. Does this bring you joy? We're like, "What is this? What did you do with this in your business?" Because everything has to be ordinary and necessary for your business. The tax preparer is on HGTV. We keep the closet analogy. We get all the stuff out the closet, but the tax preparer puts the shelving in there and drills all the shelves to make sure all the clothes are in there strategically, right? So depending on your entity, your tax preparer is going to make sure that everything that we've organized for you data-wise is entered in correctly, and that you're getting, the most benefit regarding your tax liability, that you're paying the least amount of taxes possible. Hear me, I didn't say you're not paying taxes at all. We all in business to pay taxes. So you make sure that you're not overpaying in taxes.
Right.
Then next is the tax planner. So every now and then the tax preparer is not always the tax planner, right? And this is going to be like long-term, like retirement, short-term, long-term disability, things like that, just to make sure, depending on your entity and the profit that you're bringing in, that you're setting yourself up for long-term, right? Because nobody wants to work forever. And then the CPA, some CPAs have all of these encompassed in their firm. Sometimes they don't. But the biggest thing is, especially with the bookkeeper, the tax preparer, and the CPA, most of them are niched based on industry, right? So you have to make sure that you ask questions. So a lot of, like, some of the questions, if you're looking for a bookkeeper, ask them, like, how often do they go over the numbers with you? If they go over them at all. Tax preparer, depending on the business that you have, I say don't just ask, do they do business taxes? If you're an S Corp, ask them, do they file their 1120? If you're a single member LLC or sole proprietor, ask them, do they file the Schedule C, right? And then if it's a CPA, you ask them, like, the what's your ideal client? What's your ideal industry? Because depending on the industry, they'll be able to tell you and give you insight on, the tax deductions and, tax updates and things like that. And then for the tax planner, just make sure that they're certified to offer you products within your state, because they all have licenses and things like that.
Wow. So what would you say are some of, like, the biggest mistakes that business owners make when it comes to managing their finances in their business?
Documentation.
Okay.
Documentation. Receipts. Just because you put everything on your credit card, your business credit card, you can't just say, well, it's on my business credit card. And especially if it's Amazon, Walmart, something that's kind of like general, miscellaneous type, you still need a receipt. So one of the things two things I would suggest when it comes to documentation, because most of us shop online and you're going to get an email receipt. Just create you a folder in your email that says 2023 tax receipts and put all your receipts in there. And then when it's time for you, to get what you need and get everything organized, you can pull it from that folder. Physically, you can get a baker's box, so little cardboard boxes, and put all your receipts in there, or you can scan them. You got a child, they always talk about you can hire your children.
Yeah,
they're gonna be on the phone anyway. Let them folks take a picture of those receipts, because now these receipts got like invisible ink. I don't know what type of ink they using, but those like 3 days later they be like, I'm just a piece of paper. You didn't buy anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I would say documentation first. And then second thing I would definitely say is I'll say accounting software, just not having a platform. Now, we endorse QuickBooks, but of course, QuickBooks is not the only thing that's out there. And then people are, not tech savvy, if you will. You want to still get your pen and paper? Go crazy. But I'm telling you now, when it comes to the profit and loss and all that, somebody's gonna have to get on the computer and do some stuff for you. So making sure that you have accounting software, or even with Excel, we have at GIP Financials, one of our staff accountants created a DIY tracker. So even if you download your transactions in CSV format, you can put them in there and you'll still generate a P&L, a balance sheet, and it'll give you some basic cash flow information for you as well. So it's different ways that you can organize your financials. You don't have to, because sometimes people think it's, business owners think it's overwhelming, like, oh, QuickBooks is too much and things like that. No, you can start small and then grow into, those platforms, depending on what your goals are and how far you want to grow and scale your business. But I'll say definitely documentation, accounting software, and then just not knowing like the deductions, some common deductions, professional development. Y'all, like InvestFest, even if you just went to go hear the speakers and stuff. That's a deduction because that's ordinary and necessary for your business, because a lot of people like to go berserk on the travel, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Again, you got to make sure you document that because those are red flags. If they're in excess,
Right.
if the IRS is looking for professional development and even like interest on your business credit cards and like your loans. A lot of people miss out on that as well. You can't deduct the interest, not the payments, but the interest. So,
Okay. So what would be considered excessive? I know you mentioned excessive on, like travel and going to different functions. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so
So,
what would we consider that?
right. So you just have to really take into consideration, I won't say there was a certain percentage per se,
Okay.
but I'll give you a common scenario that we
Okay.
normally get when we're dealing with clients. So if they're still commingling, right? And that just doesn't mean that you're putting business money into your personal account without documentation. This also means you're putting money into your business account and you just swiping. Like Dorothy is full swiping, no swiping, right? Swiping, no swipe. So with that, if you're, using your business debit card just to, spend on personal expenses and things like that, it's going to hit home because we actually had a client that we were helping them. They were self-employed to get like a mortgage refinance. And they used the tracker, and we were just sitting there going through all the expenses. What's this for? Like, remember I tell you about my recondo? Like, what's this for? What's this for? And we noticed that there were quite a lot of personal expenses, what we call owner's draw.
Okay.
In the spreadsheet. And they were like, I know I made more money than that. And so we asked, like, so where else is are your clients or your customers paying you money through? And of course, we had Cash App, PayPal, sales, and stuff like that. So so again, that's another topic, just talking about not having proper systems, right? And not showing everything in there. So I would say excessive, meaning commingling, personal and business expenses. And then for travel, a lot of people get it misconstrued to where now if you're traveling for business and you're feeding yourself, you can deduct that. But just say if I'm in Memphis and I'm going from client to client, I want to stop and give me a Happy Meal, I can't deduct that. But if I have a client lunch and we're talking business, or I'm helping them with their like QuickBooks setup and I buy them lunch, that is deductible. You just have to make sure that you are documenting like crazy and make sure that you have, things going on. Because like say, if I'm looking at it and I see that you have like, you made $20,000, right? Gross. But $15,000 of it was in meals. I was like, I got questions. So it's things like that. So you just have to really be cognizant of how you're spending, your money, especially travels and meals. The IRS already like, what you doing? Right. So you really got to be very careful about those. And if you're going to do those, you got to make sure you're doing those correctly.
Okay.
So,
So let's say if I wanted to go out, I'm like I said, I'm traveling and I'm with a client. Am I able to buy, everybody's steak and lobster, and have that deducted? Or is that considered unreasonable?
If you're going to do that, you have to make sure that what I would probably do is just make sure that you have some type of agenda or meeting or something in place, something documented. Like,
it's like, it's a business meeting, but we would be good at the business meeting.
Right. So as long as you have, because I would do that for like our team meetings, right? When we would meet together and we have a co-working space and I would, get them some stuff. But I will also have documentation about the meeting, who was there and what we talked about.
Okay.
So
that's like the next level have an agenda attached to that receipt in case any questions come up.
Absolutely. I would even take pictures. I mean, just to make sure, because you just have to have, when I say ordinary and necessary, you just want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, so for those people that I guess they want to get more information and get in contact with you, because you work across the country, correct?
Correct. Yeah, bookkeeping. We work with anybody across the United States, and especially although we do bookkeeping, we don't necessarily do taxes per se, but we do have tax partners that we can connect with because taxes are more state, specific.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those that want to reach out to you, let's say on social media, where can they find you?
Right. So first you can go to our website, www.gipfinancials.com. We are on Facebook and Instagram at GIP_financials. I'm on TikTok at The Money Lady, and I'm on LinkedIn as Sonja Jones, virtual accountant. So we're in plenty of places, and especially if you want a free resource from us, you can get this on our website or on our social media. We have a workbook called the Business Finance Blueprint, and that helps you make sure that you have your entity. It gives you guiding questions to make sure that your entity is set up properly. And also, we talk about cash flow, your money in systems, your money out systems. We give you the play on how to do your monthly financial close. And we also talk about the 3 financial reports that every entrepreneur should be aware of, which is the profit and loss, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement.
Okay. Great. And also, you also have a YouTube channel as well, as you stated,
yes,
right?
I forgot about YouTube. Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. It's full of content, and we try to post at least 2 videos a month.
Okay.
And
that's like a lot of educational resources for business owners.
Absolutely. And we do have them sorted out and by playlist because we serve for-profit and nonprofit organizations. So when you go on our channel, just take a look. If you get the Business Finance Blueprint, we also have a playlist for all the videos that supplement the Business Finance Blueprint, as well as for nonprofit organizations as well.
Yes. Great resources, because again, a lot of people get intimidated by numbers.
Yes.
Right? When they think about the accounting and the business side and the financial side of business, they get kind of shaky. So it's great to have a resource that they can rely on or lean on to help supplement that that piece that they feel somewhat intimidated by.
Absolutely. And one thing I also want to make sure to stress as well with entrepreneurs, because of the fact, like you said, Kerwin, numbers can be a very sensitive subject.
Yes.
And especially when entrepreneurs, when they come to us, in most situations, they come to us while the damage has already been done. Right. And so we have an element of what I call the Dr. Phil that we have to be aware of, the emotional, element of it. So I always tell our clients and our prospective clients, your numbers do not represent who you are. Don't take your numbers personally. Right. Yeah. The numbers are going to give you information, right? The numbers don't lie, but that doesn't mean you identify with those numbers. Right. Yeah. It's just talking about how the business performed. It doesn't reflect you as an individual. Right. Yes. Because a lot of folks come with a lot of shame and disappointment and saying, they'll be mad at me, don't fuss at me. It's like, I'm not gonna fuss with you. We're here to help you, sugar. Right.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah.
Right. Yes. So definitely, those business owners out there, don't be intimidated. Don't be afraid. If you're really serious about your business and really want it to grow, you have to understand your numbers, right? Because just like same thing when you go to the doctor, right? They take your blood pressure, they check your weight, they may get some lab work, because all that those tests provides insight and numbers that kind of gives you an idea of what your health looks like, right? And the same thing with these different spreadsheets and documents that's used in finance. It gives you an idea of the health of your business as well, right? So you have to understand those metrics.
Right.
And just real quick before we wrap up, what are some, I guess, the key metrics that someone should be looking at for their business?
Yeah. So I'm gonna answer that, but you mentioned something that I feel like I need to also elaborate on when you compared, the numbers to medicine. Yes,
Yeah.
we cannot help you. Yeah, you got to get naked, right? You got to get naked with us. We can't help you unless you tell us everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to do that. And then also a lot of people ask, what's the difference between bookkeeping and accounting?
Okay.
And the bookkeeping to accounting is like a nurse to a physician, right? So the bookkeeping, like the nurse comes in, does triage, gets the data, right? We'll ask you some questions. And then the accounting portion of it is like the reporting and the data analysis, where they're able to give you more of a diagnosis, like a higher level type of thing. Because a lot of people ask, well, are you a CPA? And no, I'm not a CPA. And they're like, oh, if you ain't CPA, you a scrub. It's like, no, that's not how it goes. Right. Because, and that's another thing, because people think that CPA, is too expensive. So I always want to make sure. That's why I call myself a business accounting specialist, because we can also give you the financial analysis, right, and ask those type of questions. So what was the question you asked me? I already forget.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I guess I was touching on the
metrics.
The metrics, like well, what's the key metrics that people need to be aware of?
All right. So one of the things that we do for our monthly bookkeeping clients, because I told you I was a teacher, we give them a quarterly report card.
Okay.
And some of the key metrics that we put on the report card, especially for the quarter, are like your average income, your average expenditures, right? Like the top 3 expenditures that you have for the quarter. Although we're doing it by quarter with income, if we're doing year-based, we'll do like the top 3 months, things like that. We also talk about accounts receivable. Like if you are a service-based provider and you issue invoices, we put on there the amount of unpaid invoices that are outstanding. Also, if need be, we also put the customers, the top 3 customers that owe you money. We also talk about accounts payable, the bills, the outstanding bills that you owe, and possibly the top 3, vendors that you owe money to. We also talk about cash on hand. And what that is the ending cash balance, like on your bank statement, whatever your ending cash balance is, divided by your quarterly average expenditures. And that'll let you know the amount of cash, that you have. So God forbid if something happens and you need to liquidate or you need to run the business without getting any more income, it'll show you how long your business will last.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So any final thoughts you want to share before we wrap up today?
The only thing that I have to tell you, like, hey, y'all, it is 3:45. I want to extend my deacon hand. The time is now to get your numbers in order, right? If you need help getting your numbers organized, you do not have to freak out. You do not have to, go crazy. Go to our YouTube channel, look at those videos, and download the Business Finance Blueprint. We are planning to host a virtual Business Finance Blueprint boot camp. So we are going to teach you the blueprint. Wow. And we're scheduled to do that in January 2024. So if you go ahead and when you download the blueprint, you'll be on our email list and we'll let you know the details because we're still in the process of planning that out. So don't miss that.
Great. Now, would there be is that a free workshop or is that going to be?
That will not be free, but what we're going to do, we're going to have what we call like bookkeeping basics for small business. So those will be free, kind of to lead up to the boot camp. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So I want to thank you for taking the time to to jump on the podcast and share your insights about business and the importance of accounting and knowing your numbers. It's critical for entrepreneurs to know this information.
Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing out here with your book and Malik's first job. And just like we talked about InvestFest, you know how many people that were in the financial space, the financial awareness, we're all like Power Rangers. Everybody got their own little gift, and it was just amazing. So yes, an honor. It's an honor to partner with you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And again, we'll talk again some more online, offline, and of course, we'll do some other things together. So this is not gonna be our first. This is not gonna be our last conversation.
Nope.
Definitely not. Definitely not. All right. So thank you, Sonja, for joining us, and thank you all for tuning in. Hope you all got some great insight from this episode. And please don't forget to go to the website, maliksfirstjob.com, and get your copy of the book, Malik's First Job, Financial Principles for Teens, and get your kids started on the path of financial literacy. See you all next week. Peace.
Generational wealth.